to call on voters to register, young voters especially, to register to vote. The night before that, she had announced her support for Kamala Harris. And one voter registration group has pointed to a huge spike in traffic and telling CNN the Swift effect is undeniable. Let's look at all of this. Harry Enton is here. So undeniable.
Great
You
word.
get to be the judge on that. This all gets to young voters.
Yeah.
How much does she need help? How can?
Yeah, I mean, why does Kamala Harris welcome Taylor Swift's support? Why does she need the help? Well, let's just point out something that I have been noting all along during this campaign, and that is the underperformance that both Joe Biden and now even Kamala Harris has among young voters. All right, so this is the Democrat versus Trump margin among voters age 18 to 29 or under the age of 30. You go back 4 years ago at this point. Look, Joe Biden had a 28-point advantage. A 28-point advantage over Donald Trump. Now, you look when Joe Biden dropped out of the race, he was up by just 7 points. Now, Kamala Harris has improved on Joe Biden's standing, but look at this. She's only up by 15 points. That is significantly less than Joe Biden was up at this point among the youngest voters in our electorate. It's only about half the margin that Joe Biden was pulling in. So Kamala Harris will absolutely welcome in the support of Taylor Swift if she can move young voters at all, because the bottom line is Kamala Harris is, in fact, not doing as well among young voters as you might expect a Democrat to necessarily be doing based upon history.
And what we heard from Taylor Swift last night was a call to register to vote, get involved. Why? How much of voter registration and why is that key? How important is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's go to the key battleground states of Pennsylvania and North Carolina, all right? And what we're going to do here is look at the Democratic advantage over Republicans in voter registration. This is party registration, registering as a Democrat, a Republican, or unaffiliated. Look, if you go back to September of 2020, look, among active voters in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you saw Democrats, look at that, a 559,000 voter edge over Republicans. You jump now, look, Democrats still have an edge, but look how much that's dropped. It's now just 169,000. We're talking about the Republicans closing the gap by nearly 400,000 voters in just a 4-year time span. You go to North Carolina, it's the same exact trend, right? You go back to September of 2020, you see Democrats with a 415,000 voter edge, and now they still hold an edge, but it's just 128,000. And of course, both of these states were determined by less than 100,000 voters.
Sorry, my mom went and picked up Kaya from the vet. Do you find it incredibly interesting that mainstream media never tries to dive into why Kamala and Biden aren't doing really well with young voters? No, because that would require them to think about like progressive policies and how they should lean into certain things like that. And obviously, corporate-backed mainstream media absolutely hates having that conversation, because corporations hate having that conversation, because young voters are obviously very invested due to their current class status. Especially young voters are very interested in policies that are very progressive, and progressive policies are harmful to the corporate profit motive. They are harmful to the bottom line of corporations. That is precisely the reason why they will never talk about that sort of thing. Okay? That is also the reason why they have created this mythical narrative surrounding the undecided voter. It is a lie, okay? I don't know how else to describe it. It is a lie. This mythical undecided moderate is always in the middle on these issues. They're the middle of the road guy who's just simply in between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The median voter in the United States of America has some collective total of the most insane and oftentimes inherently contradictory positions. You have to look at what their priorities are in their top 5 things that they care about and try to tackle those issues. That's it. That's how you win. And when you look at the top priorities for people, year over year, it is always going to be people that want, healthcare to be affordable or free. People that want educational attainment to be affordable or free. People that want rent to be affordable. Okay? Free would be even better, but you know what I mean. Like, those are the main things, right? Those are the main things that people care about. Those are the main things that impact their lives. And it's especially so for younger people. Okay? Why are they voting right then? Because okay, so here's how this goes. And I will use the example of Latino voters in the state of Texas, because I think that's one of the best examples that you can use in this regard. A lot of people go, why the fuck are Latinos in Texas voting for the Republican Party? This doesn't make any sense. They're a pretty solid, reliable voting bloc for the Texas GOP. Why? Well, because one, they've been, generationally Texans for a lot longer than most white people in this country. That's one of the reasons. And so, they don't consider themselves to be like in the same vein as like undocumented migrants in any capacity, and inherently might even have reactionary attitudes towards that sort of thing. But beyond that, Latino voters in general, especially in the South, consistently poll very positively on progressive economic policies, a bigger social, a bigger welfare state. They are for it, okay? But if one side is never actually advocating for that at all, and the other side is not advocating for that either, but at least they're giving them something that they care about, like if they're Catholic, for example, if they're very religious, for example, the other side, the Republican Party, regularly hits them on that note on issues like abortion, or consistently pumps their communities full of misinformation in terms of like, trans people, they're transing the youth, they're doing this, they're doing that. Especially if you have lower educational attainment across the board, okay, you are more likely to hyper focus on at least some of the things that these people are putting in front of you. Okay, that's it. And in defense of this, if the Democratic Party wanted to launch a solid defense against this kind of strategy, all they would need to do is offer the Hispanic voting bloc, the Latino voters in Texas, the Latino voters in all these other states, things that they care about, okay? Things that they care about, things that improve their lives, okay? But when they don't do that, and the other side at the very least like looks at their situation and says like, we're not gonna fix your material conditions, but hey, these guys are trying to make things worse for you. They're transing the children. And we're going to protect abortions, or we're going to make sure that, nobody gets an abortion or whatever. Then, yeah, they go, all right, well, this guy at least offers me guns, and I like guns. This guy at least offers me, at least tells me like I'm right to be angry, and that I should be angry at this thing that I don't fully understand. And then they go and vote for the Republicans. That's how it works. Half of my boyfriend's family is undocumented. They literally want to have family. They literally want to have family members who are citizens vote for Trump because Dems are transing the kids. And I don't know how to explain to them that they will get deported if Trump wins. Yeah. I don't know a single Latino voter who thinks that. Well, you might be in a primarily blue state. Also, you are literally in this chat, which means you're probably like close to the age of 30 or under the age of 30. And of course, Latino voters under the age of 30 are some of the most like pro-socialists you've seen in this goddamn country. They were the most reliable voting bloc for Bernard Sanders. So that's an entirely different conversation to be had there. We're not talking about you, okay? We're talking about seventh generation Texas, seventh generation Texans of like Mexican descent that have been in this country for longer than most white people in the Northeast, okay? Do you think Kamala is 13 on young people than Biden was in 2020 because all the Sneeko, Aiden Ross, Andrew Tate viewers being under the age of 18 back then? Young men are 50-50 now, or is it more so because of the greater awareness of the Democrats' policy on Israel-Palestine? I think it's both. People who had Texas moved to them, yeah. The dudes who say the border crossed me. Yeah, I'm from Texas and Latino. Half of my extended family is hardcore MAGA. My parents still talk to this day about how how great Reagan was for giving them amnesty. That's the other side of the equation too. Leftist Latinos really need to start speaking up. Latinos are about to overtake the white people in the next decade as the majority of Republican voters. I mean, Latinos are the white people in this equation, at least in terms of like census data and the way that like a lot of Latinos view themselves. Whiteness is not about the color of your skin. Whiteness is a socio-political construct. Okay. And there's hella Latino voter blocks that have already been firmly committed to the white voter block, regardless, like Cubans, right? And what is actually currently happening is that with the reactionary slant that you're seeing, there's even like Mexican dudes and Guatemalan dudes that are also now joining joining that categorization. When will they stop trying to use colors with this concept? Is single-handedly is keeping it from being understood by the masses? No, not single-handedly being. That's only one of the tricks that is being used to, undermine the truth and change public sentiment. This is an inherently white supremacist system. It's there's a more propaganda trickonology. Yeah, I will never forgive Yakub. I will never forgive Dr. Yakub for inventing white people. He ruined the planet.
Back in 2020. So the bottom line is Republicans have been doing a significantly better job than Democrats have been doing over the last 4 years and getting folks to switch over from Democratic registration to Republican registration. So yeah, Kamala Harris would definitely welcome the idea if Taylor Swift could bring in some more younger voters, Democratic-leaning voters in the electorate, because the bottom line is Republicans have been doing a heck of a lot better job of registering voters than Democrats have over the last 4 years.
I mean, this seems like a warning sign. Well, and the results of it, we have to wait and see, right?
Yes.
I mean,
The Dem edge over GOP and voter registration is dropping in key states. I don't know what the current registered voter number is. I think this is just like new registered voters. But from what I understand, Michael from Pennsylvania was talking about how like the Democratic Party's like registered voter advantage over the Republican Party in the state of Pennsylvania in 2008 was 1 million. 1 million. 1 million. Okay, that's pretty crazy. Here, let's talk about one other aspect of the youth vote.
The thing, Christian, is that right now on the ground here in the U.S. with young voters, particularly young voters who are not white, the issue that they are talking about is not Ukraine. The issue that they're obsessed about, and I would say rightly so, is what's happening in. So that I would say I would have liked for the debate to have spent a little bit more time on international issues, on the question of, and I just have to say that in that moment when Kamala looks at Donald Trump and says this, right?
Wait, what do you mean? This is on Christian Amanpour, chat. This is no one is watching this, okay? I'm sorry. This might as well be CNN International, okay? You're not going to see this. New York Times is not going to incorporate this as their analysis ever. And Jake Tapper's never going to utter those words, and neither is Dana Fash nor Anderson Cooper.
When she looked at him and said it to his face, you are considered a disgrace.
Also, she said rightfully so. So before you yell about that.
Obsessed about, and I would say rightly so, is what's happening in. So that I would say I would have liked for the debate to have spent a little bit more time on international issues, on the question of, and I just have to say that in that moment when Kamala looks at Donald Trump and says this, right? When she looked at him and said it to his face, you are considered a disgrace. On the international scale, this is where people are just like, wow, this is going to be the president? This is going to be our president again, when it's not just Ukraine. Now it's, but sadly, she was not able to seal the deal on the question of her position on, and I think that this is one of the main points for international foreign policy that will, I mean, I hate to say it, but it could make or break her election. And so that's where I would be focusing the attention now.
I know you hate my take on this because I have faith, hear rumors law, but I think Kamala goes left on Israel-Palestine by going anti-Bibi with a reconstruction plan within a month. I'll put my flag down. If I'm wrong, I'll be mega sad. Yeah, let me tell you something, okay? One, too little, too late. And also, not enough, okay? Not only is it too little, too late, but it's also going to not be enough. So even if she did that, she should have done that a month ago. She should have done that a month ago and then built off of the momentum from that into taking a hardened position, okay? She has routinely said that she is not denying weapons transfers to Israel at this point. It's just not going to happen. ABC covered the story of some HasanAbi heads who are, refusing to serve in the Israeli military, by the way. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was fun. The main thinking is that she's waiting until it's too late for AIPAC to spend election money. I'm pessimistic, though. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Because let me tell you something. Okay? At that point, it's done. Okay? It's done. Like, people need time to trust you. Okay? People need time to believe you. And if you have spent that time, if you have spent all of that time since the swap out, positioning yourself directly in opposition to the point that you're going to inevitably arrive at, it's going to be too late, okay? Early voting has already started. You can't go Holocaust Harris mode for like the past 2 months and then be like, oh, just kidding, actually. We're going to switch that off. And knowing how the Democrats operate and knowing how she's communicated on this issue with like some of the residual Obama stank associated with this kind of sentiment, like the NGO focused approach to the subject matter, where she says like Palestinians need self-determination. Like, as every other day there's like 70 Palestinian children that are being wiped out by American weapons that we're shipping them still. Okay. You don't share the opinion that people think she's trying to hint at a better position for Palestine, but can't go full on without basically contradicting Joe Biden that she's still vice. Yeah, no, I don't. I think that's, and if that's the case, then it's not only is it cowardly, but it's also idiotic. And I gave you a historical reason as to why that's idiotic. Okay. With LBJ, it was a failure. It was a failure of Humphrey to do this far too late. And, you said it first, and I found an article about LBJ's Vietnam issue. Yep. The specter of Hubert Humphrey haunts Kamala Harris. A Democratic convention in Chicago isn't the summer's only echo with 1960. After the Democrat in the White House decided not to run for re-election, the VP got the presidential nod. Hubert Humphrey faced that choice in 1968. Kamala faces it now. There are so many patterns that keep repeating themselves. There are so many patterns that keep repeating themselves that have happened throughout American political history. The LBJ, Joe Biden versus Hubert Humphrey, Kamala Harris dynamic is glaringly obvious. It is so obvious that I'm shocked that more people don't actually talk about this. Okay. Not only that, but also on the other side, you have a Ronald Reagan style presidential candidate who has basically carbon copied Ronald Reagan, who has every opportunity to sidestep the Democratic Party and communicate directly with Benjamin Netanyahu. Republicans have, under Nixon and under Reagan, literally cut deals with foreign nationals, with foreign entities, specifically to cook the books in terms of the election on an unfavorable issue. Okay? Ronald Reagan survived an assassination, so did Donald Trump. It's like bar for bar. Chatter's thinking that Kamala is somehow more left-leaning than she is because of her takes in 2020 when she instantly went way to the right on everything is naive. Wish people wouldn't do this. I mean, that's why I was always very careful. I was to not instill to not create like a sense of confidence in Kamala Harris of her like being secretly this like progressive. The reason why I didn't want to do that is because I told you, like, a California senator in 2019 was always going to be more progressive than their actual ideological, their actual real opinions and how they would legislate, because they have no power. When Democrats have no power, they'll act like they're Maoists. She just made $600 million in 2 months. What is Chatter's yapping about? HasanAbi talking to an average American voter be like, nerdy ass politics chatter needs to understand who really votes. Yeah, this is the other side of the equation. She has fundraised $1 billion. Okay, she has fundraised $1 billion since she was announced. According to leftist YouTubers, you apparently didn't do that. It's like they don't listen to any words you say. Yeah, they're leftist YouTubers, brother. What are we talking about? Like, I'm sorry, no disrespect. I love them all, but they're leftist YouTubers, okay? They do not represent a real constituency. It's not a real, we're not having a serious conversation at this point. There's a reason why I never talk about like other leftist YouTubers if they, have analysis that I disagree with, because why the fuck would I do that? Like, Republican YouTubers literally have the capacity to change political discourse in this goddamn country and even promote pogroms. Leftist YouTubers don't have that capacity at all. They don't have anything. Half of them aren't even American, if you're talking about like bad empanada or whatever. Yeah, I mean, this is a funny take, but this is the average American.
High likelihood that the person that you are subjecting to the death penalty might not have actually committed. There are plenty of people who are currently on death row, including a very famous case of a man in Texas. It's your state.
Yes, my
This
state.
guy is autistic. In a lot of instances, actually, this happens very, very frequently. People with personality disorders, unfortunately, are overrepresented in people within death row that might get falsely accused of a heinous that they actually did not commit. The famous case in Texas I'm referring to is an old man who's been in prison, I believe, on death row for, 25 years at this point. The main detective who actually prosecuted him, or I mean not prosecuted, but arrested him and investigated the case, now thinks he's innocent and is trying to get him off death row, but he still cannot do that.
Let me stop you right there.
What?
Yeah. Kamala Harris raised $47 million in the 24 hours after the debate. It's her biggest 24-hour period since the launch days. I think these are also the reasons that, okay, these two stories, I'm going to show you side by side, okay? This, Kamala Harris campaign raised $47 million in the 24 hours after the debate. And this, J.D. Vance went on a podcast called Viva Fry and said that we are currently in an internal battle that is a continuation of the Civil War and he's on the side of the South, okay? Those two stories back to back is exactly why I still think Kamala Harris is going to win, okay? That's it. Like, Republicans have horrible instincts and they're leaning into like the most insane when they could be running an adequate campaign, but they just refuse to do so. They refuse to be normal, okay? And the Democrats do have a lot of promising prospects, let's say, like that show that there is a lot of popularity or there is a lot of need. Here's a TikTok from a HasanAbi head that sums up what you've been saying about Kamala just throwing.
Hasan said that Democrats will always manage to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, and he is so correct. We're 2 months out from the election, about 30 days before...
I saw this TikTok. It's a great TikTok. I got to pee real quick here.
Hasan said that Democrats will always manage to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory, and he is so correct. We're 2 months out from the election, about 30 days before early ballots start going into mailboxes, and the presidential debate is tomorrow, and the Harris campaign has finally announced the policies that they believe in. There's two problems. Actually, there's more like one problem, but the one problem has two facets to it. Basically, what they've done is essentially just copy and paste the Biden campaign's stance on policies. That's what we in the biz call a bad move. Because it means the Harris campaign's policies are incredibly unspecific. Like, they say they want to raise the minimum wage. Okay, to what? They say they want to restore Roe v. Wade. Okay, how? They say they want to, like, ban assault weapons. Through what means? And since these are all the exact same vague promises that Biden made, why should anyone trust you to actually deliver on it when the administration that you're working for isn't doing that? All of the exciting things that make people want to vote for Democrats are gone, and all of the things that basically just make Democrats Republicans from 2008 are present. The only things that are really specified in this policy page are tax credits. And Democrats, I'm gonna hold your hands when I say this. No one cares about tax credits. Just give people free money. Finally, deciding to run as Joe Biden's Agenda Part 2 was stupid because people didn't just not like Joe Biden because he was old. He is a historically unpopular Democrat due to his politics. The old just pushed him over the line. This race should be nowhere near this close, but Democrats are addicted to losing. It's like they can't get enough of it.
Another similarity is that Hubert Humphrey also never won a single primary contest, although he did get votes from closed caucuses and being friends with the party bosses. Why tie yourself to a dude with 30% approval? Yeah, it's really funny because that dude's approval rating went up because he dropped out. Okay? That's the funniest thing. Like, people were like, thank God he's no longer the bag up. So his approval rating went up, and Kamala was like, that's the guy I want everyone to associate me with. The guy who I literally replaced because he was so patently unlikable. And before people say it's because the Democrats are the controlled opposition party, okay? Before people say that it's because Democrats are also backed by the same corporate entity and that they are the opposition party, They have a vested interest in continuing the profit focused short-term collapse of the American economy in the same way that the Republicans are, yada, yada, yada. It's like, dog, I know. Okay, I know. But that's not who I'm talking to right now. I'm talking to you. Okay? And I'm making an argument as to I'm helping you and others like you arrive at that conclusion by showing you verifiable proof that, like, the Democrats are working to lose. There is a ton of people in here that do not have that same approach that you do, okay? There's a ton of people in here that think that the Democratic Party is doing their best, that believe what they see when they hear the MSNBC coverage on the mythical moderate, or when they see the CNN coverage on the moderate undecideds that just want, like, middle of the road policy from Kamala, and that's how they're going to get off their asses and go out and vote. I have to counter that propaganda, okay? I have to counter that propaganda. That's my job, is to counter that propaganda. That's what I'm doing when I do that, okay? But yes, that underlying basis for why the Democratic Party operates that way is, of course, true, and I talk about it all the goddamn time. Just now is not the time for that.
Registration doesn't equal votes, but it's something of an indicator.
It's an indicator.
Speaking of indicators, what is the Swift effect?
Yeah, what is the Swift effect? So, look, what do we know? Visitors to vote.gov due to Taylor Swift, who clicked on that link on her Instagram post. As of 2 p.m. yesterday, look how many folks clicked on that link. It was 338,000 folks. Now, not all those folks, obviously, are going to register to vote. But the bottom line is, this is a ton of folks who could be entering the electorate. Look, it's not necessarily something that's going to change the election if Donald Trump ends up winning by 2 or 3 points. But of course, the votes in these key battleground states are so tight that any help that you could get at all, this is a clear effect of folks going and getting interested to register to vote. You saw last night Taylor Swift again urging folks to go register to vote. Democrats will take any of the help, because the bottom line is this election is so close that any small impact could be all the impact in the world, Kate.
Are you saying turnout matters?
Turnout.
Sarah?
You two goofs. All right, so how much of an impact might Taylor Swift make with young voters? I'm joined now by CNN political commentator Van Jones. He's also a former Obama administration official, and Meredith McGraw, national politics correspondent for Politico. Van, to you, we have to see if there's a Swiftie effect.
The guy who really is tapped into the youth vote is the guy who cried real tears on camera when Joe Biden dropped out. Let's go to that guy who cried real tears when Joe Biden dropped out. Okay. Hasan has a better understanding of the goddamn youth vote, and he certainly doesn't. I'm just saying he has a better understanding of the goddamn youth vote than Van Jones. Okay. I compared you and HasanAbi and your chat's reactions to the debate and Asman in his chat. Are there actually a large amount of Russian boss trolls, or are there genuinely so many people who believe Kamala is just a liar? If yes, how do you win them over to our cause? Wait, dog, yeah, there's a lot of Republicans in Asmongold's community. No, like, those are genuine people. Also, Kamala does lie. What do you mean? Every politician lies.
Coining the phrase, a Swiftie effect. She certainly had an effect on people being interested in registering to vote. We don't know if they actually did. They did click on the link. Do you think she could make an impact? Because you and I have talked about this before. Usually celebrities don't really change people's minds.
Well, here's the thing. What she can do is to motivate people who might have been Kamala curious to actually look at Kamala Harris as an option. And you do have a whole different world. You and I, we watch television, we know the news, hopefully everybody at home watches us every day. A lot of people don't. Wake up call to the political class. A lot of people don't follow every Donald Trump press conference, everything that Kamala Harris has ever done. And so when they're in their Instagram, their TikTok, when Taylor Swift, if she moves her left elbow, it's massive news. And so what you're doing is you're creating an on-ramp to politics for a generation of young people that may not honestly have been paying attention at all. And so just the mere fact that you get a little bit of a looky-loo, that people are looking over there gives Kamala Harris an advantage that she would not have had with people who are not political junkies.
That is a heck of a lot of people, 337,000 people.
No, million people. Right.
I mean, yeah. 337,000 that clicked on the link, but there are millions of people on her.
Well, there's 300,000 people, as you said, who clicked, but she has 300 million social media followers. She's got more social media followers than a lot of countries have citizens. That's a big deal.
It's about the size of the United States. There are people following her from all over the world. All right. I want to talk about swing states because this is an incredibly close race, and we need to recognize that. Debbie Dingell, Congresswoman from Michigan, talked about her particular state, which was a huge state and a state that Hillary Clinton really needed and lost during her campaign against Donald Trump. Let's listen to what Debbie Dingell said.
I wonder what Van Jones will say about Michigan. I wonder if there's like an automatic 200,000 voters plus that Kamala Harris could win over in the state of Michigan. I can't seem to place my finger on why Michigan seems so close. I just don't know why, especially when Michigan was actually wider when the original swap out happened, and then the communication from the Harris team made that so much closer for some reason.
I think Michigan is a dead heat. People know, but there's just a lot of people in the middle. I don't understand at times what people see in Donald Trump. They know what will happen to this country if he's president again, but they believe strongly. And it's just closer than people realize.
Meredith, why is this race so incredibly, literally historically close when you look at the polling right now?
Well, we're seeing that there still remain millions of undecided voters. And these people they seem to skew a little bit male. And there are a lot of educated women who are in this group who still have not made up their minds about Harris or Trump. And both campaigns are working hard to try to win them over and also find out where they are in these key battleground states so that they can campaign there and they can tailor their messaging for them. And the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign are on this blitz in the next few days to try to go to these battleground states and make their message. For the Harris campaign to try to, move forward with the momentum they have after the debate, and for Trump to try to reset and refocus on the policy issues that he failed to really talk about the other night.
Van, I do to you. I don't remember.
Like, do they do if you say it's Israel or something? Like, do they just do they fire you? Like, what's going on? Like, you can't be avoiding this. Like the top of the hour ad break, the mythical moderate that you've been talking about. Yeah. The Democratic Party is avoiding the truth. The mainstream media is avoiding the truth harder than subscribers avoid the top of the hour ad break. It's 3 minutes long and it's here. You might not have recognized it if you were already subscribed for $6 or for free. It's 3 minute ad break now.
Remember, and maybe you do. You've been doing this. You've been in this game a lot longer than I have. But
that's true.
But I'm not sure I remember ever hearing someone say we really have to focus on the male vote, the men's vote. But the men are actually making a difference here, and they are going towards Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, look, we have a gender gap. There's been one for a while. That's not new. But what's new is, I think, the intensity of it. Okay. I think Donald Trump is running a very masculinist campaign. Kamala's not running a feminist campaign. I mean, she's not, underscoring the fact that she's a woman. Hillary Clinton did that, didn't work out as well. But there is this kind of masculinist approach where you're going to what's called the manosphere, which is a bunch of podcasts that are really aimed at men. He's trying to bring in a lot of the so-called bro culture, and it does have an effect. A lot of young men are saying that they don't feel the Democratic Party sees them in a good light. They think the Democratic Party sees all men as being quote unquote toxic, and that's starting to have an effect. And so I think Kamala Harris has an opportunity to make up some ground here, because I know her personally. Nobody more enthusiastic about young men being successful than a former prosecutor. She's been somebody rooting for young men in California to get jobs, to get out of trouble, to get on their way. That needs to be underscored more, given the dynamics of the race.
I do want to talk to you about something that the campaign did, the Harris campaign did. They went on Twitter, as one does, and they trolled Donald Trump. I want you to see it. They said, this is our latest campaign ad. And what is it? It is simply the entire debate. There's that laugh again. There it is.
I'm just saying that's kind of mic drop on that. I love it. It's fun. It's funny because she whooped him, and I think that Kamala Harris did something that no politician has been able to do in this whole past decade. Donald Trump has been eating up politicians like Pac-Man. He went through 16 Republican governors and senators, whooped them, and made it look easy. Kamala Harris went out there, and she just owned him on every question. And I just think that she's right. I think that's hilarious.
I'm going to show you now our power rankings about to be revealed for the first time.
There is a very real problem with the young male demographic that extends far beyond the Democratic Party's future prospects in this election. I don't know how we're ever going to address that, but the same dynamic exists for them the same dynamic exists for them in the exact same way that you saw in that Tyler Adolf Hitler Oliveira video. It's not just Andrew Tate. It's not just TikTok and gender wars. They play a very prominent role in radicalizing young men. Okay. But having said that, beyond the manosphere, there are a lot of men who are, one, being left behind in school. They are not receiving the same educational attainment that women are. Okay. For a multitude of different reasons. This also cuts at their job prospects. Their job prospects are diminishing. Their material conditions, especially when paired up with the entitlement that they feel about where society is supposed to place them as young men, is causing them to be resentful and angry. If you do not solve the underlying material problems, you are not going to win these people over. You are just going to make them more and more right-wing, more and more radical. That's it. Republicans love this environment. They make no sense since the economy is doing better. Bro, what are you talking about? The post-COVID recovery bump understanders or the post-COVID recovery bump explainers objectively forgot that the economy, not by the metrics that you look at the economy on, but just by how people experience the economy, how real working class people feel about the economy, was never good. It wasn't good in 2016 either. Okay. It's so stupid that people are just but I don't get it. It's objectively better. It's objectively better than it was during the peak of COVID. It's dude, what are you talking about? This makes it seem like everyone was happy with the economy in 2016. Why do I do any of this commentary if people just objectively forget all of a sudden? They shut off a part of their brains. Shit's not good. Doors open. Doors open. I gotta go outside.
We mentioned a moment ago that there are changes, all right? Let's put it into motion, okay? We believe right now that North Carolina and Georgia have had a shift. They've had some movement. So I want to direct your attention down to the southeastern corner of the country. Georgia and North Carolina are considered toss-ups. So we will now put them.
The American economy has been, in terms of GDP, blowing the up since the 90s. And yet, for some weird reason, people's living standards and conditions have gotten worse beyond technological advancements making things easier. I wonder why. I wonder why important things that you need for upward social mobility, like educational attainment, have exploded in cost. I wonder if that has something to do with it. Housing is something you need to survive. Exploded in cost. Perhaps that is probably more meaningful in terms of the way that people analyze the economy.
In the same category that we had 4 other states for some time. Nevada and Arizona, no change. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, no change. At the moment, we've got Michigan, lean Democrat, or we should say, yes, right here. Right here is lean Democrat in the blue on the far side of the screen. So watch these states as they hit both of them. Come on, Mr. Magic. Don't fail me now. Okay, we're going to do something super ugly, okay? Team?
We're with you.
Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. I mean, you got to shut the thing down. You got to restart it. All
But
right?
can you point to Wisconsin and tell me about the closeness
Well,
of that race?
here's what I wanted to show you. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, now we can go back in here, Dana. Let's do this. Voila. Apologies about that. Sorry, but these things happen. You know where that would not have happened, Dana? On Elon Musk's spacecraft earlier today. All right, they did it perfectly. These are the states to focus on right now, okay? These are the area that we are going to watch 78 electoral votes among 6 different states and how they break. I would say Pennsylvania, 19 electoral votes. It's the biggest batch in this list here. But don't overlook Georgia, 16 electoral votes. North Carolina, 16 electoral votes. Taken together, it's 32, right? Okay? So they matter. They matter in a significant way. In a moment, I'll show you just how much going back to 2020. Our forecast at the moment has Kamala Harris the lead. We've got her at 241. We've got Trump at 219. You need 270 to win. That's the magic number in the end. Okay? And that's our power rankings as of now. A bit later, I want to go back to 2020. I want to show you 3 states in specific. I want to show Wisconsin. I want to show Georgia. I want to show Arizona. Dana, do you know what the total was between those 3 states?
I don't.
Wasn't even 43,000 combined, and that was the difference with Biden winning all 3. And in the end, Trump would have ended up with 269 electoral votes.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News.
Remember that number. Remember that number. This is why I told you the uncommitted movement was very important, but nobody listens to me because what the do I know? Donald Trump was objectively less popular back then at the end of his presidency than he is now. He had 4 years of Democratic Party incompetence from the eyes of the broader electorate and an economy, numerous world wars to benefit from. He obviously is really bad at campaigning, and he has a hard hill to climb because people straight up have made their minds on him. Having said that, however, this is why I always say this is the Democrats' race to lose.